Omid Roustaei, and I'd like to welcome you to my kitchen here in Seattle. I am so thrilled and grateful to have been invited to return to the Farhang flavor series to do another presentation and showcase another gem of a dish from Persian cuisine. So thank you, Farhang Foundation, for this brilliant opportunity for me to be able to continue to share my love of Persian food and Persian culture with the rest of you. The dish that I'm going to be presenting today is Albaloo Polow, which translates to Persian rice with sour cherries. Albaloo is the Farsi word for morello or sour cherries, which have a very distinctive dark red skin and quite an intense tart flavor, which ultimately makes them highly prized in Persian culture and cuisine because of their color and their tart flavor. So for this dish, sour cherries are sweetened with sugar and then further enhanced with, of course, saffron and a touch of butter. They are then cooked the traditional Persian way by being layered inside of the pot with the rice that gets steamed, covered for about 45 minutes. Albaloo Polow can be served with stewed beef, roasted chicken, or in this case I'm making it with meatballs called qerqeli, or in our household we call them kalle gonjishki. These are Farsi terms that reference how small and delicate these meatballs really should be. And think of them almost the size of a hazelnut. So the meatballs are sauteed until they get nice and crispy, and then they get coated with the sour cherry syrup and then placed decoratively on a serving platter around the rice, garnished with pistachios, almond, rose petals, if you choose to put that in addition. Albaloo is also integrated into Persian cuisine in a variety of different ways. The juice is sweetened and turned into a syrup and then is generously drizzled over a Persian starchy cold noodle dessert called falude. Syrup is also mixed with water and rose water and then poured over ice as an amazing thirst-quenching sharbat drink for those hot summer days whenever they arrive here in Seattle. Of course, there is the favorite morabba albaloo, which is the Persian sour cherry jam, which is truly a favorite amongst all Iranians. And here are the ingredients for the Albaloo Polow with qerqeli meatballs. I have some basmati rice that I've been soaking in water for a couple of hours. And I'm also using frozen pie cherries because that's what was only available at this time for me. And they are quite tart, which actually work really well for Albaloo Polow. Depending on the tartness of the cherry, you will of course adjust the amount of sugar that you will add. For the seasoning, I have salt, pepper, turmeric, and cinnamon and cardamom that get blended in with the meat, with an onion that gets grated in there and then formed into a meatball, then fried with some olive oil. And then of course there is the saffron thread that you will crush in your mortar and pestle, add some water, and you will always have some saffron water on hand, which when the recipe asks for it, that's what you add to your dishes. So let's get started with preparing our Albaloo Polow today. Okay, it's time to make the cherries. So the frozen cherries that I used had completely thawed out. I added half a cup of sugar to mine. You can absolutely adjust the sugar to suit your palate. You can actually completely eliminate it if you prefer it sour, or increase it if the cherries are on the tart side. So I'm gonna cook it uncovered for about 15 minutes. The juices from the cherry will come out and the sugar will melt with it and it will form a little bit of a syrup. Then I'm going to strain it, save the syrup for the last part of the dish, and then the cherries will have a little butter and saffron added that then gets layered inside of the pot. So I'm just gonna leave it here for about 15 minutes and move on to getting the rest of the dish put together. To make the meatballs, you start with a medium-sized onion and a grater. So start with that first. add the rest of the ingredients. So I have the ground meat, that's about a pound. And then there is my salt, pepper, turmeric, cardamom, and cinnamon. Those go in. And now just get your hands in there and mix them really well so that the end result is a really smooth textured meatballs that then you will take some time and prepare all the little small qerqeli meatballs, these tiny little meatballs. So stay here and just mix them really well for a while. And with a little bit of patience and care, about 15 minutes later, I've been able to pick up small pieces of the meat mixture, roll it between my fingers, my palm of my hands, until they get a nice round shape. And then you put it on a plate and you are ready to fry them. This part is so easy to start small, and then I find myself that as I keep rolling them, the meatballs keep getting bigger and bigger. So the focus is really just trying to make sure, take the time and make them uniform and small sizes. Of course they can be bigger. However, they're called qerqeli for good reason. These are supposed to be very small. So here they are, and now they're ready to be gently sauteed in a frying pan and put aside until they're ready to be served with the rice. Okay, the sour cherries have cooked for about 15 minutes and they have reduced in liquid in volume. So what I'm going to do is strain the juices out into one bowl and save that for the final part of the dish, and then put the cherries in a separate bowl by themselves. Add a little bit of butter and saffron. So about a couple tablespoons of butter gets put in here, and about 2-3 tablespoons, I think 2 is enough, 2 tablespoons of suspended saffron in water. So I'm going to pour that in here. This will melt, will come together, and once I get the rice boiling, then this cherry mixture here gets layered inside of the rice. There we are. So that is ready. I will mix this up and put this aside until I'm ready for the rice. In the meantime, I brought a large pot of water to a boil. I added my already soaked basmati rice into this, added a good hearty tablespoon of salt to this, and I'm going to stay here and I'm going to boil it for, depending on the variety of the rice that you use, about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes until this rice looks really nice and elongated. And when you taste it, it does have a little bite to it, but by no means it's cooked, and it's also not crunchy. So this, at this stage, looks actually quite nice and quite good. So I'm going to turn this off, take it to the sink, rinse it, and then bring it back and begin layering the albaloo, the cherries, into the pot. And now we're ready to begin the layering of the rice. I always like to make saffron tadi. So what I like to do here is reach for my saffron jar once again, resuspend the ground saffron in water. I'm going to add about a tablespoon or so of this saffron mixture into this little bowl. And then I'm going to take about a cup. Usually a cup is enough. It really just depends on the size of the pot that you're going to use. So this is the rice that got boiled and got rinsed. I'm going to add about a cup of this rice into this bowl. Toss that around, and you will see instantly what will happen. The saffron will color the rice in just such a brilliant way, and of course adds a tremendous amount of flavor as well. So there is my saffron and rice that will now get put on the bottom of the pot. So here I have my non-stick pan that I just melted a little bit of butter in the bottom of the pan. I'm going to swirl that around. You can use olive oil, you can use vegetable oil, absolutely ghee. All of these fats are pretty good here. So go ahead, add this rice to the bottom of the pan. Make sure you get all of the good saffron out of it. Okay, now spread this around. Of course, you would do this gently so that you're not crushing this rice grain. Spread this around so that the entire bottom of the pot is nicely covered with really just a thin layer of this rice. Once you've done that, then it's just a matter of layering a layer of the rice, a layer of the sour cherries that you cooked, and previously I added a little butter and saffron to this, and so we're ready to move forward. A spatula full of this white rice, put a layer down, and then add cherries. I like the first layer of the rice to be actually a little heartier, just so that the color of cherries won't leak through to the tahdig. It's just a preference. If you don't mind your tahdig being more colorful, then by all means, you don't have to worry about that. So for now, I'm gonna put this, spread this out, put a layer of the cherry over the rice, and you will do so until all the cherries and the rice have been layered in here. So quickly to give you a look, that's what this will look like for now. And finally, the last bit of rice gets put in, spread that out, and finish it off with the remainder of the sour cherries. Okay, spread that out just a bit. Okay, now, of course, you will have a clean kitchen towel that you will open up and place the lid inside of this towel. Wrap that around nicely. Pull it back so that the edges aren't drooping over. Place that on top, press it down, and this is now ready to go on the stovetop. That will then get cooked at about 45 minutes on medium heat. And now it's time to saute the qelqeli meatballs. So I have heated the pan gently. I'm gonna add some olive oil, just enough so that it covers lightly the bottom of the pan. Spread that around. And I would want to do this one at a time so that I don't make them fall apart. So place them in the pan one at a time rather. And once you place them, you don't need to touch it. Stay here for a while and let it saute. Let it begin crisping up on one side before attempting to rotate it. And I also like to do this in batches depending on how much meatballs you have. The more you crowd the pan, the more likely they're to fall apart, and we don't want that to happen. So just stay here. I'm gonna do this in about maybe 2 batches. Stay here, keep it at about a medium flame, and in about, I think the whole thing may take less than 10 minutes, again, depending on the size of the meatball that you've created. The meatballs now have sufficiently cooked and they're just beautiful, crispy and golden color. So I will go ahead and add the cherry juice that I had saved from simmering the cherries earlier. Toss that in. Shake this around and turn it off, and until you're ready to garnish this around the platter of the rice. Albaloo Polow has it all. Sweet, sour, salt, carbohydrates, protein, soft, crispy, and bright uplifting colors. All of it packed into really one surprisingly humble dish. On Albaloo Polow feels like truly an indulgence. I feel a bit mischievous eating it as though I'm having dessert for lunch or for dinner. It is truly a delicious and flavorful meal, and I think of it as a true gastronomic experience that satisfies all the different taste buds in your palate. And now it's time to bring it all together. The rice is cooked, so I'm going to lift the lid and I'm going to get a spatula and just lightly go in and pull out the rice and spread it out over the platter. And until all of the rice is out, and then I'll go in and I'll remove some of the tahdig and I'll garnish around it, put the meatballs and the garnish all around it and on top of it. Now arrange the meatballs around the platter. And finally, finish it off with slivered pistachios. You'll sprinkle all around, as well as almonds, slivered almonds. And then finish it off with some rose petals on top. And that is our Albaloo Polow with El Ghali. So I hope you have enjoyed my version of Albaloo Polow. Know that there are many different iterations of it. This is one way that spoke to me and that I wanted to share with you. I hope you also give this a try and share it with your loved ones. Thank you again. Bye-bye.